This is the 22nd season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. We got a good show today for the first time in a while. He believes that he was in timeout. He's never been in timeout. Well, he was in timeout one time, but he learned from his mistakes. It's just he does his own show. You could hear him talk every Thursday evening over at Bass After Dark, but he comes with a deep well of knowledge from his time at Bassmaster and in the industry. He also fishes. It's Ken Duke. It's everybody's favorite. We know him. We love him. We'll bring him right in off the bat because we got a lot to talk about. What's up, Mr. Duke?
It's so good to be out of timeout. It's so good to be back with you, Matt. You're the best. Thank you for having me on.
You're never in timeout, like I said, except for that one time, but that was a very short-lived. That was a very short-lived timeout, and I feel warranted still. I feel like the timeout may have been warranted, but you speak your mind. You have to speak your mind. But I'm also a very normal looking Ken Duke. We have no smoking jackets. We have no fedoras. We have no lounging. We have no smokers jackets. It's just Ken Duke.
Well, you know, I usually am wearing a smoking jacket. It's just for you and Bass Talk Live that I come out in a t-shirt cap, looking like I'm ready to go fishing, basically. That's
fair. I'm ready to go fishing. I'm flirting with the idea of going. It's funny that you mentioned in our little pre-show, our 2-minute pre-show between my egg white bite delights and chugging Red Bull, the Hawaiian shirt, because I think I've got, so Frank Scalish did a signature series hat in the last drop that's like a sketch of him with the smallmouth, but I also had it made in the youngsters hat with the flat, you know, like the Brandon Polinick style where it's not very structured. So I've got a flat bill in an olive color, and I'm thinking of buttoning it up to the top. And I've got a different Hawaiian shirt. So I'm going to button it up to the top with the Hawaiian shirt. I've got the 7-inch inseam AFTCO boat shorts that are a little too short for a 40-year-old, but just perfect for the trendy type. And then the perfectly flat bill with the Smalley on it. And then I'm going to pin the Bass logo here. And that's going to be my weigh-in getup for the Bass Nation Regional on Lake Champlain. And if I know I'm wearing that, I think that may motivate me to catch a decent satchel because you can't dress like that and come across stage without catching them.
That is so true, man. Yeah, if you're going to make certain fashion statements, you better have fish or you're just a laughing stock at that point. And what is fishing except fashion, you know? I mean,
dude, that's true, Ken. You were around during the fashion days. No one here realizes what bass fishing fashion used to be. Enlighten us.
Well, initially right out of the gate, it was polo shirts, you know, with maybe one logo on the chest, maybe just one logo. And that was it. And then, and some guys were pretty wild. There was a guy named Roger Moore who would have spinner blades hanging off his lapels and stuff like that. And Jimmy Houston would wear these wild red or white pants with this big contrasting line down the side, the outside side seam.
Like bell bottoms almost.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Bell bottoms. Yeah. And that was Jimmy's thing. Jimmy was very flamboyant back in the day. Roger Moore out of Missouri, very flamboyant back in the day. And then, as of course, we move into the 80s, you started seeing the shirts with the stitched on patches. And then by the late 80s, early 90s, we're into the vests with the patches on them, you know, so you could wear a different shirt and just put
like
on the
Woo
vest.
Dave's Bassmaster Classic patch, that type of stuff.
Absolutely. And you know, and things have changed. And then they got into the heavy stitched embroidered stuff by the late 90s, early 2000s. And now you have the pajamas.
Yeah, it definitely has done. But if you go back and look and if you dive into the Bassmaster archives or Lynn Dollar or anything, there are some, I mean, like matching shirt and stuff where like the stripes on the side go down to the pants and they're bright. And then they would have a jumpsuit that then they'd peel the jumpsuit off and then it would reveal the
totally
like a painter's
forgot.
outfit.
I totally forgot to mention the jumpsuits. Those were big in the early 70s. In fact, Ray Scott, through his catalog in Bassmaster magazine, sold a lot of jumpsuits, and they'd have a patch or two on them that people would have to sew on by hand. And caps were common, but they weren't the only choice. There were a lot of bucket hats back in the day, not just Homer Circle, but guys who are fishing professionally wearing bucket hats.
What do you think of bass fishing fashion now? You think there is any, or do you think that has become a lost art?
Well, I think what bass fishing now is all about getting as many logos as you possibly can. And I think that's a slippery slope because, and I bet you'd agree with this, the industry is in such financial straits, and guys are looking for a few dollars or some free gear wherever they can, and they're trading that for space on a jersey. So that sometimes, unless the guy is standing up and he's completely unrolled his jersey, you can't even see all the little bitty sponsors who threw him a bag of worms on his shirt. And it's all about having as much space as possible on your jersey. But, fishing fashion isn't just the clothing, I think, Matt. Fishing fashion also extends to baits and colors of baits. Things like Tequila Sunrise in plastic worms. That didn't stop catching fish. That just stopped catching fishermen for some reason.
Yeah, that's true. Have you done a whole show on Tequila Sunrise?
I
feel like you did like a whole show on some odd colors. Here, this is a little bit what we talked about for those that are younger. Now, I can tell through demographics that the majority of the people watching BTL have been around.
Yeah, I'm sure you've got a lot of 40s, 50s
neck of the
guys.
woods.
Yeah.
Can you tell just from this what year it is? Oh yeah, it says 1975 Bassmaster Classic in the
top.
Yeah,
I was gonna guess 76 if I had to guess.
But there's some absolute gems in here. Like that's the shirt. Yep, that's the shirt you're talking about with the polo.
Ricky Green. That's a button down, I think.
Look at that with the white belt, the fitted button down, the pocket tee, and then like the striped pants.
Trucker cap too. That's Paul Chambly from North Carolina. That's 1975. That must be the Currituck Sound Bassmaster Classic.
Look at that.
Polo shirt.
There's one of Jimmy Houston in here. That is just a look.
Yeah, Paul Chambly again, who was a standout, maybe one of the best BASS pros who never won a tournament. There's Tommy. Hard to catch these guys, but yeah, this is a different era, isn't it?
Look at that swag. I mean, that is a white button down pressed with a white embroidered vest, skin tight over it, a black and white belt, black slacks, patches, and embroidery with the sunglasses going to the stage. If someone did that now, they'd say, oh, get over yourself. The ego's out. This was standard.
That was high styling back then. I believe that's Tommy Martin. There's Ricky Green, trucker hat, of course. That was everything back then. And I don't think that was the best era for the look. I actually thought there's Woo. I always thought the best look was Billy Westmoreland.
Look at the hat. Polka dot hat with a stitched on embroidery.
There you go. There was and that's Paul Chambly up close. Bill Dance, of course, with Ray Scott on the right.
Timeless.
Yeah, classic tee. Bill, those are two of the most epic. There's Jimmy. Two of the most epic hats in the history of bass fishing. Bill Dance's tee cap and Ray Scott Stetson. My gosh.
I was not even planning on going here. There's one in here. Oh, there it is.
There he is. That's the stripe down the side I was talking about.
Look at that.
He often wore pants that matched that shirt that were just super bright red. The haircut, of course, Jimmy now hasn't cut his hair in a while, but the haircut hasn't changed a lot.
Man, I need to take that photo, have it re-rendered, and put that in the backdrop on the BTL studio. Just the fashion. The 70s were that was the fashion. I had no plans on time. I have a list of things that we need to talk about because you're a very, what is it? Is it apropos? Timely?
Crazy?
No, you're a very timely guest.
Oh, awesome. I like being a timely guest.
Your bass fish. This is a great point, Barry. You are bass fishing in the Bassmaster Classic where with no nets. So when it comes in, like you're landing fish, you're on the front deck, and you go with bright white trousers.
Yeah, that was a time when these guys were just trying to make a name for themselves, and this sport was just kind of developing. People were just starting to get taken seriously. And a guy like Jimmy Houston or Bill Dance or Roland Martin back then was on television. They had a reputation to protect, and they did it by dressing out, playing the part. Roland running his fingers through his hair before weigh-in. Jimmy and Roland not wearing caps at the weigh-in because that would destroy the look. Styling and profiling.
There might be some more meat on that bone to get some guys on who really were into the bass fishing fashion back in the day.
It was about 15 years ago that Tim Horton reached out to me. I was working at BASS.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Tim was fishing the Elite Series and qualifying for classics every year after year. And he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I want to go old school at the day 1 or day 2 weigh-in. I'm going to go jumpsuit, patches on the jumpsuit. Have you got any photos that you can share with me to give me a clear look to make it historically accurate?" And I actually found a dude from one of the early 70s classics wearing a jumpsuit who I promise you looked like the twin of Tim Horton. I wish I could remember who it was, and I wish I'd known we were going to go down this path. I would have sent you that picture.
I have no path, whatever BTL goes down. It is what it is. But we're on this path now, and I'm enjoying the journey.
I like it too, man. I'm one of the few guys who can probably name most of the people in those images on that old TV show. But that was a groundbreaking moment.
There
here's
it is,
a classic
right there
on TV. Yeah, there's Tim, and he was looking authentic. He had the Bass Pro Trucker cap and the jumpsuit. That
Bass
was
Pro
a tribute
Blues,
to the style of the day.
Wild.
Perfectly authentic.
The first guy to go. So like and it could, like I said, I say this a lot. It could be just because when I got into it, it was impressionable to me. But then you obviously had, if you want to go new school, I would say it would be Swindle, Skeet Reese, Mike Iaconelli, that type of thing where you're throw those are the three that stick out to me.
Yeah, Skeet especially. I mean, Skeet established a color combination with that yellow and black. You got Mike Iaconelli with the flames around the, I don't know what to call it, but the hem of the shirt. Those guys were kind of establishing a new standard and a new trend. About I don't know, maybe 15, 18 years ago, or probably 15 years ago, guys got away from the thicker, heavier shirts with the short collars and the embroidery, and they went with what I call the pajamas look, which I think is a sloppy look. I don't think it's an attractive look, but it's an effective way to get your sponsors exposure.
The cleanest dressed guys ever on tour. I think it's an easy 1-2 call here. I'm curious on your two, like just the cleanest professional look. There's two anglers that really jump out in my mind. I'm curious if we have the same two.
I think I got to put Skeet there.
That was not where I was going.
Not going there.
Skeet had frosted tips.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, I thought you were talking about just the wardrobe.
No, I'm talking about the cleanest, neatest overall look. There's two guys.
Well, Kevin always was immaculate.
Kevin's one. There's another one that's very similar to Kevin that I would wonder if Kevin maybe modeled himself after.
Ooh.
Does not fish consistently anymore, but still fishes. Legend. You're going to get this on the next one. From the Carolinas.
Guy Aker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guy with the black slacks, which had a crease that looked like they could cut you.
Yes.
Guy Aker was next level sharpness, as your viewer there pointed out. Guy was and that's great. And Guy was not top of mind only because he's been out of the main spotlight for a while.
But even back then, just
sharp.
the crisp collar, pressed slacks, crease in them. You can tell the man keeps his tailor in business.
Yeah, and you got to appreciate that, because there are so many people who don't get it, who don't understand that they are representing not just themselves, but a lot of sponsors and the sport. But guys like Kevin Van Dam and Guy Aker, and I think a number of other guys always understood that. And I appreciate that about them, because those are the stewards of the sport who go a long way to determining whether we're advancing or declining as a game.
There's a vintage image of Guy Eaker competing back in the early Elite Series days. Now, mind you, this was probably, I believe, on the California Delta in 2010, if my memory serves me correct, where he was battling it. I think Bill Lowen was back in that area, battling it out back there. Now, mind you, he's catching fish in a tournament. This is 2-3 days into the event. The shirt is immaculately tucked. The pants are ridiculously creased, straight leg like me. I mean, do you know how hard that is to maintain that look throughout a day of competition? Either that or maybe I'm just a total slob.
No, well, you know, twice during each competition day, a guy would stop to iron his slacks, so that would help a lot.
Yeah, had a chase boat with the
iron
table.
Some people have a measuring board. A guy had a ironing board.
Roland had a freaking platform on the front deck. Guy Eaker had an ironing board.
Well, Roland's back deck seat had one of those big, you know, ladies
mirror.
No, well, mirror, but one of those big ladies beehive looking things that would go over to dry and fluff your hair. So Roland was always ready with Roland, I think, had the best hairstyle of the era.
I mean, you cannot find a picture of Guy Eaker in tournament competition where he's not looking like he's in a photo. Like, here he is battling it out. Look at that. It's just immaculate.
You're right. I mean, well, Guy was very, Guy's tall, he's slim, he's a very put together looking guy, and he always dressed well, carried himself well. One of the best people you'd ever want to talk to if you're looking for an interview and on a bass fishing topic, and he represented his sponsors, like few other guys have.
One of the only guys that, like, I fished against him in a number of Bassmaster Opens, and he's one of the only guys like that I give like half a mile of water to. Just out of courtesy. Like, I remember we were on Norman one time, and I had pulled up on one side of the cove, and then he pulled up on the other side, and he started, and I probably could have fished for 30 minutes before we met. And I just said, I'm just going to give Guy the cove. And it just felt like the right thing to do.
Well, that's a lot of grace you're showing him there. And, you know, the man has earned it through the way he carries himself. But, you know, on the other side of that, and I love this guy, Woo Daves. You know, if you run into Woo Daves, you know, his jersey is not tucked in. His jersey is not, it's covered with tobacco stains running down the front.
Mm-hmm.
But also just a wonderful gentleman of the game, just not as interested in maybe what he looked like on any individual day.
And before we move on, we would be remiss, as G-Man Adventures 8892 points out. Scott Martin also.
Yeah, he's next level.
Never see him disheveled, so to speak.
Yeah, the guy looks like a model and presents himself very well. I think that's a lot of his dad too, because like I say, when Roland would bring his boat back to the ramp or beach it for a weigh-in, first thing he's doing is he's running his fingers through the blonde locks and getting ready for the cameras, and there's a place for that.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. The
posing.
Hair over. I mean, back in the day with the hair over, like, that's not an accident. You can't put a visor on and have your hair positioned like that. I mean, that takes a lot of time, and I've never even had long hair like that.
Now, is that a visor or a hyzer?
I think that's a visor. I just think that's when he was back. It's interesting because, like, look at the next one. Like, Roland still has style.
Absolutely, Roland has style.
But yeah, that's Scott Martin would definitely go on that as far as the cleanest cut look in the game.
And speaking about rocking the hyzer, which for anybody who's not familiar is just when you take a conventional cap and you cut it off to turn it into a visor.
Call that the Hellabass these days. Yeah.
What about Byron Velvet? Byron was always styling.
Now, Byron to me was more of the golf visor type. He wore a lot of the visors that had the extended bill that went like this is going to sound bad, don't get upset, but like the ladies golf visor look. You know what I'm talking about though, right?
I hope Byron didn't hear that. That's
he's too busy
harsh.
Recording Fishtails.
He is. Fishtails H2O live, you know, on the water. That's cool stuff. Thursdays, folks. Thursdays.
All right, you want to talk about, I don't know if any of this stuff is actually really important in the grand scheme of life, but let's talk about things in our industry that are important. We used to have you on, and I don't think we did it last year, but ICAST, the big show, trade show that was going on in today's social media world. It's interesting. Yeah, we could do a whole visor show. I know Skeet, Bernie Schultz.
Oh my God, Bernie. See, I can't wear a visor, as you know, Matt, because I look like a Jiffy Pop. If I do.
Well, that would just be cruel and unusual punishment to the top half of your head.
It would
last about 10 minminutes.
It's awful.
That thing would look like a clown's nose on top.
I already look like a clown. I tell everybody, you know, I'm bald like an egg, and I tell everybody I'm so bald that's a toupee. You know, it's how bad it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sorry. Yeah, ICAST last week, Tuesday through Friday, biggest trade show in the fishing industry worldwide.
Sorry, I have to go back to fashion again, Ken.
Oh, yes. Fashion.
I'm sorry. So Clay Williamson didn't even mean to do this. I'm assuming when he said The Hawk, he was speaking of the 10-part Netflix series, The Hawk, with Will Ferrell that just came out, like kind of a little bit of a golf spoof. It's got 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. So that'll tell like audience and critics alike. And I was working on my 12 spinning rods for Champlain next week and ended up binging the entire series. Anyway, reminded me of Kevin Hawk, Forest Wood Cup champion, also immaculate dresser.
And another great representative. You know, I think the guys who are immaculate dressers all have one additional thing in common, and that is that they are really good ambassadors for their sponsors. I mean, really good. Not that the guys who don't present themselves as well are not equal to them or better, but all of those guys who are snappy dressers, they are good with sponsors. They know how to represent.
Yeah.
And Kevin Hawk, I hate that Kevin didn't ultimately make it as a full-time Bass Pro. I know he's done some guiding and stuff, but a really good guy.
He just quit. It ended up not being his cup of tea. He was at Guntersville. He was guiding. He'd won the Forest Wood Cup. He'd done the Elites. He'd done everything. And I think he just moved on to, that'd be a good catch-up show.
Yeah, you know, you got to get guys like Michael Bennett, Kevin Hawk.
Here, for those who don't know, that's Kevin Hawk right there.
Yeah, really good fella. I really
stylish.
like Kevin.
Very stylish.
Smart, incredibly dedicated when he was still playing the game, because he, when he qualified for the Forest Wood Cup and he knew it was going to be on Lanier, he moved to Lanier and spent as much time on that body of water as possible.
He rent a apartment, do an apartment lease or something there for several months before that.
Yeah, he put in incredible time out there, and unfortunately, he never, got to another basically. But he was a dedicated guy.
Okay, back to ICAST. If you listen to social media, there's a lot of people are saying ICAST is dead, ICAST is dying, that's not good. Then you talk to other people who are at the show. It's kind of like the Bassmaster Classic scenario. There's a lot of people who say that the Bassmaster Classic sucks online who don't go to the damn Bassmaster Classic.
Right.
Are we dealing with the same thing at ICAST here? You've been to every single ICAST known to man, and I haven't been for the last 3 years. I haven't said anything negative about it. I haven't said anything overly positive about it. We did some live stuff. We did all 16 new urchins in a Searching for Urchin episode, if you guys are interested in that, where Dave Rush and Jordan Babcock put together an urchin map of all the new urchins at ICAST, and we walked to them. Anyway, you were there. Your thoughts, your opinions. You have a unique view of it.
Well, I haven't seen the official attendance numbers from ICAST, so I don't know what ASA is claiming in terms of attendance, but I believe attendance was down yet again. And ICAST attendance has been a bit of a struggle since COVID. And I think that's to be expected. I think the trade shows generally, whether you're talking about a wholesaler show or you're talking about ICAST, attendance is going down. And it's going down for a variety of reasons. I think COVID took a lot of people off the road. I think that there are other and perhaps equally effective ways to see new products. Companies are doing a better job of getting that stuff out on social media and through YouTube and other ways. But is ICAST dead? No, ICAST is not dead. Is ICAST dying? Yes, ICAST is dying. And if it's still around in 5 years, I don't think it'll be nearly what it is today. But here's why ASA is going to do all they can to keep ICAST going. ASA, the American Sport Fishing Association, is our industry's biggest lobbying effort. When you hear about organizations, the government, whatever, trying to stop fishing here or close this there, it's ASA that steps in and tries to push back on behalf of anglers. So they're valuable in that sense. I can't tell you that they do a lot of other things super well, but they are a good lobbying organization. They are an effective voice of the recreational angler. And here's their problem. ICAST is their biggest revenue generator by a wide margin. They'll make, and I'm guessing here, but I think this number is probably very, very close. I'm guessing they make somewhere around maybe $4.5 million off of ICAST, renting the booth space and so forth. And that's the great majority of their revenue. If they lose that, if ICAST goes away, they're effectively dead as an organization, or they're so weakened that they're probably no longer meaningful and effective. So they're going to hold on as long as they can. Now, in 2020, Matt, you'll remember that because of COVID, there was not an in-person ICAST. There was a virtual ICAST, and it sucked. I mean, it sucked and blew simultaneously. It was just awful. I don't think anybody really participated. They made a tiny fraction. They made about 10% of what they would have made from an in-person ICAST. And in my opinion, they foolishly killed the virtual ICAST. Rather than try to keep it going and make it worthwhile and add value to the people who are physically there by also offering them an online experience, a virtual experience, they just basically killed it. I guess what they figured was, if we offer virtual, people will choose virtual, we'll make so much less money, we can't survive. So that's probably why they did that. But that's why ICAST is not going to go softly into this good night.
Okay, I don't ever remember this being done, but you would know this, and I've wrote down some. So ICAST is ran and operated. So the genesis of ICAST is ASA, which stands for
American Sport Fishing Association.
This is not what I was planning on doing, so we're down another wormhole.
And
so this is the Americans.
American Sport, and ICAST stands for the International Convention of Allied Sport Fishing Trades.
Oh, duh. So this is the American Sport Fishing Association. You can go to About the ASA. At the ASA, we help individual sport fishing related businesses succeed by uplifting the entire industry. We provide the advocacy tools and connections these companies need to grow and thrive. So is ASA a for-profit company or organization?
No, they're not a for-profit company or organization. They are a relatively small group of full-time employees. Most of them essentially, I'll call them lobbyists. That's probably not exactly what they would want me to call them, but they have a number of lobbyists. They have a number of administrators. They have things like a trade show director and stuff like that.
Okay. And so that's what they do, not just in bass fishing, but when I say sport fishing, we're talking fly fishing, the trout stuff. We're talking guiding. We're talking saltwater fishing, the whole 9 yards. So if you are in the United States, right? Is it just United States?
Yeah, it's American Sport Fishing Association. And
God damn, I'm an idiot.
No. But let me stop you just for 1 second. When we say it's for guides, it's for this, it's for that, make no mistake. ASA cares very little for anybody except manufacturers. Now, they're not going to say that. They would fight me tooth and nail. But they care about manufacturers because it's manufacturers who are giving them money in the form of dues and in the form of rental space on the ICAST show floor. The rest of the industry is just kind of collateral people.
Okay.
And that makes sense. I'm not particularly blaming them for that. But in my experience with ASA over the last 15 years, I've been going to the ASA summits and stuff like that. That's 90% of their focus, 90% of their care. They pay lip service to some of the other stuff, but it's the manufacturers who they care about.
Okay. And I know a lot of these people that are on the executive committee. I mean, I don't know Daniel Nussbaum very well, but you know him from Z-Man.
I love Daniel Nussbaum.
Yeah,
Daniel Nussbaum,
Todd Hamill, Casey
people.
Shedd at AFCO is there.
Sure.
Yeah, members, you know, on there like Bruce Stanton,
Pradco.
Just a bunch of guys. I mean, there's Kathy Fennell.
I know all those people, and some of them are competent.
Everyone I named was.
Okay.
So
I'll okay.
I just said you're gonna get timeout number 2. Okay, I'm just trying to get this, but their biggest,
I thought you want me to tell the truth.
So if they make, ICAST is their biggest, is the ASA's biggest event. Don't they do like some other summits and some other things around too?
Yeah, in October they do a thing called the ASA Sport Fishing Summit, and that is the best networking event in the sport fishing industry by far. It's not close. ICAST, as you know, Matt, because you've been to many of them.
Yes.
At ICAST, you have, I'll just use a round number here, 13,000 people and roughly 700 booths. And if you want to spend significant time with an individual there who can make a difference in your business, or you want to create some sort of collaboration, good luck, because there's not a lot of time and there's way too many people for that kind of thing to happen. What the people are there at ICAST for, if they're smart, and not all of them are smart, most of them are not smart, but if they're smart, they're focused on trying to sell product, or they're focused on trying to get media exposure. So the Bass Pro who's trying to get a new sponsor, or the guy like me or Matt who's trying to get some support for a show, we're not usually top of mind for those guys,
understandably.
But the ASA Summit, instead of being 13,000 people, is 200 people. But guess who it is? It's Bill Shedd and Casey Shedd from AFCO. It's Kerry Graves at Daiwa. It's the people who own these cuts. Bruce Stanton from Pradco.
That's the one that you're like, hey, you need to go to this, and I've never gone. I know you need to go.
Pestered you about it, Matt.
So then the money that they bring in from ICAST, if you said let's just use a random number, $4 million. So that goes to the ASA. That's for the booth space, for everything. I'm sure you have a lot of expenses and the renting out of all that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But the money then that is generated from that, then does the ASA use to, I guess, champion to work to do the lobbying, the legislation, if something comes up where they're saying, hey, no fishing in Oregon because some guy who was strapped to a tree, they cut the tree down and now he's trying to figure out his next cause, and it's to save the trout that's in some stream because he thinks fishing is bad. Is that where the ASA, once that legislation is involved, says, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to go out there, we're going to meet with the legislative and stuff. So some of that money then goes to kind of protecting the Sport Fishing Association.
Exactly. And of course, a lot of that money goes to pay staff, who are doing that kind of lobbying. And importantly and tellingly, ASA is headquartered in DC.
Okay.
And that's where
they do a lot of good stuff. Like I see photos of stuff of like, hey, I'm with the ASA. We're just talking generals here.
They
Ken,
do a lot
you
of
can
good
get into the weeds with any topic whatsoever.
I live in the weeds, Matt Peg.
As a general rule, that's when you see, when you're scrolling on Facebook or Instagram or something, and you see, hey, we met with legislators, with ASA, with a couple people from that area over this legislation or this thing that's going on with this area. ASA has a hand in that.
Exactly right. And a lot of their efforts are in Florida. And for obvious reasons, because Florida is the fishing state in the country, and about 25 cents out of every dollar spent on sport fishing in America is right here in Florida.
So who can be a member of the ASA then?
Well, really anybody can be a member of the ASA, but mostly members are principally one category. It's manufacturers, and not just manufacturers, but manufacturers who also want to be exhibitors at ICAST. By far, that is the largest category of members. But you and I can join as media people. Retailers can join. Last time I checked, though, fewer than 100 retailers were members. And ASA talks about trying to serve retailers better, and I don't think they do a great job. The biggest thing they do for retailers is I don't think they charge them to attend ICAST. which
Gotcha.
only makes sense because those are the people buying things.
In the About Us, someone asked, it says it's 68 years old.
Yeah, it used to be AFTMA. For anybody who's old like me, AFTMA was the American Fishing Tackle Manufacturers Association. And there was an AFTMA show before there was an ICAST. I think the first ICAST show was 2001, 2002, right in there.
Okay. Do you think that perhaps the numbers are down because they don't go to Vegas anymore?
No, 100% not.
No?
Yeah,
No.
I'm here to tell you the truth, Matt Pangrak. Here's the deal. ICAST attendance never surpassed about 9,000. Orlando attendance has never been less than 10,000. And in its best days, it was 15,000.
But does attendance really matter? It's not open to the public. You don't want high numbers, do you? You want the right people who are there, who are doing business, who are there for the reason to get the stuff done. They're not trying to do a Bassmaster Classic where they're getting people through a turnbuckle.
True, but if you're an exhibitor, let's say you're Pangrak Tackle, and you hear PT, and you hear that
sell urchins and minnows.
You hear that there are going to be 8,000 people at the show, or
different than everyone else's urchins and minnows.
There are going to be 14,000 people at the show. And which would you rather choose? Would you rather go to the show where you know 14,000 people are going to be there, or 8,000 people?
I'd rather go to the show where I knew 8,000 of the right people were going to be there if I was there to do business than to go to the show where 14,000 people were there, but 10,000 of them were just going to take up my time, window shop, kick the tires, and I wasn't going to get any deals done to get Pangrak Tackle to the right distributors and the right companies and to the right media.
But you're also a poker player, and you know your chances are better if there's 14,000 rather than if there's 8,000.
I disagree. Also, and what if it's the right? I would rather be in front of the right group of 100 people than the wrong group of 1,000 people.
Okay, let me go back and tell you why it's the right people also in Orlando, or more of the right people in Orlando. Not only are there more people generally, but the fishing industry is mostly East Coast, mostly Southern, especially the bass industry. So are those people more likely to come to Orlando, which is a drive away or a short flight, or are they more likely to go to Las Vegas?
Much more likely to go to Orlando.
Are they more likely to say, hey, we'll also turn this into a little family vacation with bringing the kids?
Orlando, Disney World.
Are they more likely to go
alligator?
Are they more likely to go someplace where the hotel rates are cheaper or where they're more expensive?
Yeah.
They're going to go to Orlando, and they're going to go to Orlando for that reason. Are they going to go someplace where the floor space is cheaper or more expensive? Orlando's cheaper.
You sold me on Orlando. I'm fine with Orlando.
And that's why it's been Orlando for like the last, 12, 13 years. And that's why it's Orlando. I think it's already scheduled through 2030 to be in Orlando. So it ain't going to Las Vegas because nobody at ASA wants it on their resume to say, yeah, I took it back to Vegas where we had 7,500 people, but they were the right people.
Can I play one more devil's advocate role on ICAST? What are your thoughts on, and I'm a believer in this, as we get further and further away from personal interaction, the shaking of hands, the looking in people's eyes, the touching of the baits, and go towards digital, which is been the natural progression for the last. Sure. How important is it that even though there may not be a pure fish there's still a lot of key players in the industry there. There's still a lot of decision makers, a lot of collaboration too, even if it's a pain in the ass and it may cost you some money and it may not be like the old days pre 2020 on it, to get together with guys that you see once a year, to sit down, to buy a meal, to shake hands, to play around a mini golf, to roll over to the booth at happy hour, to make those reconnections in person, look a guy in the eye, and have that kind of family or atmosphere of, hey, we're in this together. We're seeing what other people are doing. And that kind of keeps that network going instead of this fast-paced boom, boom, it's here, it's gone, it's here, it's gone, it's here, it's gone. I think that's still important. That's one of the reasons why I've lamented not going. Isn't because I think it would be, I would get tons of sponsors out of it and blah, 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 and all this stuff, but just those in-person connections. And that's what I do at the Bassmaster Classic every year too, is, I cover the tournament, but I'm there for the after hours meetings, the Jack and Coke at the hotel bar with the guy that you only get to see once a year. I think ICAST is still an integral part of that in an industry that appears massive, but in actuality is shockingly small.
Quite small. I think it's a great question. I think you're spot on, and here's where that tipping point is that I think is kind of interesting, because for you and me who've been to a bunch of ICAST, ICAST is part reunion. I see Matt Pangrac twice a year. I see him at ICAST, I see him at a Bassmaster Classic Expo, and that's about it. And I enjoy seeing Matt Pangrac, and multiply that times 100, because Matt and I will run into 100 or more people that we will see at these events. And the more of these events you go to, obviously the older you get, but the older you get, hopefully the more impactful you are, the higher you've moved up in your company, the more financial power you have in the industry. So it's exactly the people who value that face-to-face, that handshake, that, hey, Matt, how you been, brother, who are helping to keep this thing alive. And I think that's going to help it hang in there a little bit longer too, because it is a reunion. It's a reunion for a lot of people, and the young people who come and who've been to a few of them, they start to see that too if they're good at making relationships and shaking hands and kissing babies. So that helps. It's, although yeah, every study says that we want, as consumers, we want less human contact. We want less human contact points. We just want to go on the internet, click a button, and have it arrive. We don't want to have to talk to somebody. We don't want to have to ask a question. Keep that away from us. But for those of us who've been around a long time and have some friends, it's maybe a little different.
I want you to explain to me how what I'm about to describe works in the ICAST ethos. So prior to ICAST, I saw a couple, they just came across my feed on Instagram, and they had 1,000 followers, 800 followers, 3,000 followers. And they were saying it's a hand poured bait that maybe their spouse, or they have one employee, they've never been to ICAST before, they're selling it directly through the social media, they have something that's unique, and they're like, we're going to ICAST. And you see them all, like, in the booth there, and you can tell they've put their hard-earned money that they've made through years of small bait sales. Maybe they're in one local tackle thing, but they've got something, and they go to ICAST and they get a booth and they set it up and they have the screen printing made, and then you see that, and then next door you've got a Daiwa, or you've got a Prad or Lose Fish, Strike King, something that's a giant like that. Where does that 10 by 10 booth space, as someone who put their hard-earned money to go to, like, what is that goal for them in Florida? Is it to get it in more tackle shops? Is it to get it to where one of the bigger companies, like an OEM, like purchase it and says, like, what is that? Because I think that's an integral part of it too. I still saw them even this year, like, hey, we're here. We got it. We're in the booth. There's people walking past. Where do they fit into the ICAST picture instead of the ones that we're all used to seeing on the shelves every day?
That's a tough question. I think that these companies, these little guys, we'll call them mom and pops.
Mom and pops.
We'll call them 10 by 10s. Let's call them 10 by 10s, because that's the smallest booth size you can rent at ICAST. And that's where you usually see these folks. They rarely have a bigger booth than that. And the 10 by 10s have different goals depending on who they are, obviously. But for most of them, they're trying to get their product exposed because they think if it's seen, it'll sell. And they're wildly optimistic in a lot of cases, especially the bait guys. If you're a bait guy and your goal is to come to ICAST because you've got something new and different and interesting, prepare to have that stolen from you, and prepare to have that stolen from you pretty quickly. And that's not good, obviously, because if a big company comes by and they see it, they take a good look at it, they realize that even if you've got a patent on it, they're going to be able to change it enough that they can get around your patent. And guess what? They have faster means of production, they have better distribution, and they have bigger marketing. So they're going to get that product out so fast that the angling public will believe they invented it, not you, them. That's a real danger. For the companies that are making something that is truly unique and that is not just unique, but has its own lane in the market, those people are the ones who typically have the most success at ICAST because they can get the exposure they want. and they can stand out from the crowd enough that nobody else is really competing with them. There was a cool aerator at the show this year. I can't even remember the name of the Arc something, and it's a very cool aerator, and they've been in business for a while, and it's neat and it's different, and maybe they're not going to have anybody try to come out and take that away from them. There was Chasing Finn, which had a lot of cool apparel and jewelry and things like that I thought was great, and they're different enough from the other kind of people who are like chains that they can. I didn't see any gold chains, but
I'm in the market for like a classy gold chain with just a little fishing thing on the bottom. Not like, we're not talking like a gaudy spinner, but I feel like I've been in the market for a gold chain. Anyway,
check out chasingfin.com.
Okay.
I got a little bracelet, and it's very cool, but I'm not really a jewelry guy, but I will wear it because it's.
I see you wearing a thumb ring. Skeet Reese, 2008. I can see you going with a little thumb ring look.
I'm thinking about it. I might have to go there. That's my next iteration.
Okay. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for those smaller ones because they're trying to get their stuff out, but in the process, they also are exposing their baits to everyone else there who makes baits also.
They're showing their soft white underbelly. And that's a problem if you don't have a patent on your product, and you don't have decent marketing, and you don't have good means of production, and you don't have distribution. If you can come to ICAST and you have some of those things, then you can make some hay. But if you don't, prepare to have your lunch stolen.
Okay, and this could be wrong, but I'm thinking 2011. So is Andy Poss with the Alabama rig, right?
Oh yeah, Andy.
So
Poss
that was October of 2011 that Elias does it. It's
on Gunnersville, yeah.
Facebook's around, but the social media, the YouTube, the thing hasn't really blown up. So then you have ICAST basically 8 months after it's been blown up. He can't keep up with demand. I remember being at that ICAST and going to the man's booth, and Paul Elias was in the man's booth. So was that a small independent? Andy Pot. That was Andy at ICAST in 2010, 9, 8, 7, going, hey, look at this contraption, and no one was. And then once it blew up, then he had to partner with Mans because they could have the distribution, and they had 8 months to do it. And then you would go to the man. You see where I'm going with that? Like, is that the same thing with Ronald A. Davis and the Chatterbait and Rad Lures, where then they had Z-Man start making the Elaztech for the trailers, and then that they did the production? Like, was Ronald, did he have a 10x10 booth at ICAST in 2005 or 2000 or 1990?
No, but Ron Davis, Rad Lewis did have a booth at the 06 Classic right after it kind of blew up everywhere.
But A-Rig, is that a perfect example?
It's a perfect example of a guy getting his lunch eaten.
Oh, you're not a good example. You're saying
a bad example. Andy Poss got burned because other people beat him to the punch. He had some kind of patent protection apparently, or a patent pending, but it's easy to get around a patent. It's not that hard. You change a few things and suddenly you're not violating the patent anymore. The Z-Man patent is a tough one because when it was still in effect, because it made a big difference in the behavior of the particular bait. Not being able to connect directly to the blind tie. No, it's wide open now.
Oh, that explains so much.
That's why I'm here, Matt.
All right. Can you not renew a patent? So the original patent for the Rad Lures, which is Ron A. Davis, who started the Chatterbait, at his son, and then they went to Z-Man, but they fiercely protected the patent. One of the reasons why they came out on the right side of it was they went through all the BS that it took to have patent pending, and that with the technology where the blade detached directly to the head, to where they took the Walker Special, which was the bladed jig, put it on the head, and then it hit the actual head on that, and that was the patent that they fiercely protected, which is why all of the other options that came out afterwards were quickly done, and you would see split rings in between it, or the blade would never actually hit the head, or there would be a different design on it, was how they got around it. But now I'm seeing a lot of other companies that are coming out with extremely close to original Chatterbait head designs.
Yeah.
Did they not protect that patent? Or
no, they can't renew that patent. You can renew copyrights, but you can't renew patents like that. And so,
I
but,
know.
but you know,
Why
one
not?
of- well, I think with regard to the idea of design, we as a society, we want to protect the innovator as a society. So we give the innovator the legal protection of a patent, but we don't want to hold society back indefinitely. So these things need to have a finite life. And that's
Similar to the
why.
Bass tricks too.
Yeah, it's similar to anything out there that's patented. If
Okay.
it's patented and it's got some real utility, so that a lot of people like it and are using it and so forth, you don't want that to be the exclusive province of one
Okay.
small company. Now, Z-Man has not only, I don't want to tell too much here. I won't mention manufacturers, but Z-Man, you and I have been on a lot of media junkets where these companies will take us fishing and they show us their new stuff, or a company will put out a press release and maybe they would give me an early look at it, or give you an early look at their press release. And twice in the last 7 or 8 years, I had companies send me a press release or take me on a junket, and I would see a product that I said, "What's this?" They would tell me the name, and I would say, "Well, I think this is in violation of the Z-Man patent." And I'm not saying I'm a patent lawyer, but I used to be a lawyer, and I'm a little bit familiar with the Z-Man patent. And I said, "I think you have a problem here." No. Our teams looked it over. Well, okay, but I'm going to call my friend Daniel Nussbaum, because I think the world of Daniel Nussbaum, and he's a super smart guy. Also, was an attorney, and he takes that patent very seriously. And in each case, Z-Man now charges these companies a licensing fee. And I think in one case, Z-Man may make more on this particular bait than the manufacturer makes.
Fair enough. So,
and I'll tell you off screen who they are.
I have an idea. So I bet you Haida wish they patented the Koike mold. So these are all
No,
like
you can't
hard
do
things.
that,
So
though.
that's this. So let's just hypothetically go down this road.
Okay, but you can't patent a replica of a living creature. So although
that's a living creature,
it's an urchin.
Okay, so
but let's imagine it's something.
Can you patent any soft plastic then? What if someone wanted
Sure.
to make
like, for
exact
example,
replica?
Z-Man patent, not Z-Man, Zoom patented the Ultra Vibe tail. That's a patented soft plastic design. That Ultra Vibe tail you see on so many of their baits.
Yeah.
Of course, they patented it because the Zoom is really smart, and they knew that, hey, this is something we're not just going to use on one bait. We're going to use this on a multitude of baits, like the Speed Worm and the Ultra Vibe Speed Crawl, and on the Horny Toad. So that was a really smart thing to patent. I think a lot of companies, especially in the soft plastics world, but the hard baits too, I wouldn't bother to patent something if you don't plan to carry it down an entire product line or two. Zoom did that with the Ultra Vibe tail.
So you're saying there's nothing patentable about that?
I don't think so.
I never even thought about that. I thought I'm you know me since I got into the damn industry, Kat. Like I'm not. I mean, I just assumed they could have been like, "Hey, we want to be the only ones who can make it."
No. And you similarly, you can't patent. Let's say you put a night crawler in a mold, and then you started pouring worms that looked exactly like a night crawler. You can't patent that because it's a night crawler.
Now, if you had a specific hook, the way you rig it, that had a unique deal to it that caused it, that could be patentable then.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Of course, the patent process is lengthy, very expensive, and sometimes out of reach for a company.
Yeah, I may or may not travel in the opens with a guy who has spent many sleepless nights exploring, learning about, trying to figure out where his time is best or best not spent when it comes to patents and protecting and things like that.
Yeah, and I like I said, I'm not a patent attorney.
Yeah.
You got to pass a special federal bar exam to become a patent attorney, and but there are cheaper ways to get a patent, and the most common way, and it's not necessarily a bad way, is if you have a product that you think has some legs, if you have a problem, a product like the Z-Man, the patent they now own on the Chatterbait that was formerly owned by Rad Lures and Ron Davis, and you know you're going to apply it across a wide variety of things, then go ahead and spend the money and get that done. Otherwise, get out there in the marketplace, and if you can't keep up with demand, sell your damn company to one of the giants before they just take your lunch and eat it in front of your face. They've got faster production. They've got better distribution. They've got bigger marketing. Your chances of beating them are small. We saw it with Andy Poss. We saw it with Andy Vallombroso from Andy's Custom Jigs. We see it all the time. Sell now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to ramp up production.
And this isn't just fishing. This is in every form of manufacturing. I mean, we're just saying, this is how business works.
Yeah.
Like look at Shark Tank.
People think that the fishing industry is savage, and it is, but it's because it's a business.
It's normal. That's how it works.
It's normal. And yeah, but patent, and one way you can get a patent a lot cheaper is find a patent attorney, and there are many who are willing to work with you for a percentage of your company.
Smart. What's your timeline look like today, Mr. Duke?
My timeline today, I get up. I'm so excited because I'm going to be on Bass Talk Live. I'm out of timeout. There's a feeling of freedom, of liberation. And so now, as soon as we get done here, my buddy Mike Davis is in town from Mississippi, and he and I are going to go have lunch with Lee Sisson, and we're going to visit a tackle shop I like called Bridgemaster, and then I'm going to do some NPFL work, and that'll go late into the evening.
Okay, so we're good if we take a quick break, come back, completely switch topics, and talk smallmouth bass, NPFL, and some numbers before we close things out. We're an hour in, dude.
Absolutely, man. My day is yours.
All right, we're talking with Ken Duke, the host of what would your title? What would you like your official title to be like?
I am the co-host of Bass After Dark.
Yeah.
I am the communications manager of the National Professional Fishing League.
Yep.
I am a industry consultant for anybody who wants to win ICAST or have a better ICAST experience. And I am a friend of Matt Pangrack.
And then in past lives, before this, you were
I have been a practicing attorney.
Yes.
I have been the senior editor of BASS Publications.
So you were a practicing attorney, and then you were the senior editor of Bass.
Yeah, I might be the only guy who's ever been on the payroll of BASS, FLW, MLF, and now NPFL.
Okay, but after that, then you went and you did...
I was the editor of Fishing Tackle Retailer for 9 years.
FTR. And then you did another one after that.
Yeah, another one after that didn't work out.
And now this.
And now now I do a lot of work with NPFL. I'm very proud of, great organization. I do some consulting work. I still do as much freelancing work as I can. And I love coming on Bass Talk Live.
There you go, Ken Duke. It is today Tuesday?
Today's Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 21st. We'll be back after this. We'll get into some stuff on the water, a couple numbers, and then we'll wrap things up. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
When I'm in a tournament, conditions are constantly changing and every second matters. With the Deep Dive app, I can instantly pull up all the current lake conditions all in one spot. So no more looking at weird government websites. In just one quick glance, I have water clarity, water level, wave forecast. It's all right there in the Deep Dive app. Download the Deep Dive app and get all the tools you need to put together an awesome tournament.
My job is to catch bass. The one thing that connects me to that bass is the fishing line. That's why I choose Sunline. Braid, monofilament, fluorocarbon, leader material, Sunline makes a line for every situation and almost every technique. When my job's on the line, I choose Sunline.
At Beatdown Outdoors, we know you depend on your gear to hold up in any condition. We built for that. We test for that. In fact, we pride ourselves in that. Because we know when the time comes to test your gear, you weren't going to take it easy, so we won't. We build premium, made in the USA products that you can rely on in the moments when your equipment should be the last thing on your mind.
All right, welcome back. BTL on a Tuesday, chatting with Ken Duke, industry insider, and also the host of Bass After Dark, co-host. We got a number of people do it there, but you like kind of open the show and then leave it to BTC for the dark thoughts at the end. So yeah, co-host. You open it, he closes it.
There you go. We're bookends.
Yeah, we've covered bass fishing style over the past 5 decades. We've covered ASA. We've covered ICAST. We've covered a lot of different things. One of the reasons that I wanted to get you on was I had Charlie Hartley on yesterday.
Right. I love Charlie Hartley.
And Charlie Hartley loves smallmouth bass.
Indeed, he does. He loves every bass. Come on.
Yes. And if you go to bestontour.net and you pull up the tournament schedule that is on there, they have overlaid, there's a calendar where they've overlaid every single tournament from every single league and organization from Toyota's up as to what's going on where and when. And we have St. Lawrence, Champlain, Erie, Champlain, Saginaw Bay, Champlain, Buffalo, all 3 organizations, all 3 different levels from Bass Nation Regionals to Toyota's Pro Circuits, BPTs, and Elite Series with full scope, 1 period, no scope, different parts of the river, lakes in play, lakes not in play, 1 days, Tuesdays, 3 days. We got it all. But there's one common thread through all of this. There's a good chance that all these will be won predominantly with a satchel of smallmouth bass.
Indeed.
Or
no question about it.
Competitive with the smallmouth bass.
Yeah.
You've done this a long time. I got in how you did the Bassmaster stuff before this. You know all the stats and stuff. Just as Ken Duke, the fishing fan and who understands the industry and stuff, has it always been so northern centered to end the year? Or is this a trend that we've seen over the past decade with all of the organizations?
It's a trend that's existed for about the last 20 years, I think. I think it's been longer than just 10, but it's for a very long time, it's been traditional to end or nearly end your season on smallmouth waters. And it makes sense, of course, for things like fish care, because you'd rather not fish summertime tournaments in the hottest possible water.
It's going to be 106 here today.
Yeah, it's going to be brutal. It's brutal here in Florida. And delayed mortality in the summertime is hideous. There's excellent reason to believe that even these fish that are carted around in live wells, that 75% of them will be dead within a week. That's what the studies say. Maybe higher. Certainly higher at a derby where the guys aren't fishing out of such highly sophisticated boats and trying to take better care of them. But so that's why you do it. You go up north. But also you go up north because these communities, whether they be in Clayton or Messina or wherever, they're Plattsburgh. They're very attractive to the leagues because they'll pay to get the leagues to come up there and to show off the.
What's an average cost, Ken?
I would say, if you mean in terms of what the local community has to pay, it depends on the level of the tournament, of course. But you're talking ballpark 30 to 75,000.
So when you see an Elite Series, there's a contract with that city that says this is what we estimate we're going to bring in, this is what we estimate you're going to get in residual people who come in and fish after it, this is how we're going to showcase it, this is what we're going to give you, we would like this in return. and it's going to cost you $35,000. I believe it is public information. The Bassmaster Open, when they go around that $20,000 mark plus rooms, amenities, and stuff like that.
Yeah, rooms. And of course, they're also making a commitment with regard to things like police protection and stuff like that, maybe emergency medical protection, stuff like that they need to have out there. And these things aren't cheap. But one of the things the community loves about it so much is it brings in people from outside. And it's one thing for you and me to keep trading that same dollar back and forth, but it's quite a different thing if somebody from out of town comes and wants to give us some money. That's like found treasure. So that's a big deal to them. And you know, the local Convention and Visitors Bureau or Chamber of Commerce, it's their way of showing off to the local businesses, the restaurants, the gas stations, the people like that they're doing something on behalf of the community for what these people are paying in taxes and in dues.
So over the past 20 years, I mean, I just posted a thing on Rick Clunny, posted it. He's up on St. Lawrence. He had a spinnerbait and he won in 92 with like 44 pounds on the St. Lawrence River. And you watch him like boat flipping 2.5 pounds. I mean, that's like a 13, 14 pound average for the day. Now, if you don't have 23, you might as well just chuck him back. You don't even need to weigh in. And we're probably going to see 5, 6 Century belts when the Elite Series go there. We're obviously it's a 3-day tournament, but it'll be a little bit lower in the MPFL because of the no scope and the river only and the situation with we'll call it a lock in this, but the bridge where they're going to open it in the morning for the guys to go under if they want to get to that Ogdenburg's Clayton area. And then one time in the afternoon on the way back. I guess the MPFL has done a lot of really good work behind the scenes to make sure that those guys can get to those fishing waters.
Yes, doing the best we can at the NPFL to make sure that that these guys can fish as much water as they possibly can. I mean, basically, you're going to be able to go from takeoff at the Messina intake area to the I-81 Wellesley Island Bridge, and you can fish the U.S. side, the Canada side. So that's the best we can do under the current circumstances. You know how anglers are. They're maybe never quite satisfied, but I think that's still plenty of water. And it's an amazing fishery. I think it's the best smallmouth bass fishery in the world.
Is that past Alex Bay, that bridge?
I'm not the guy. If I could offer you a definitive answer, I would. I'm going to hesitate to answer that.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm not sure.
But anyway, I was going with this. Was this a case where, you know, I remember when the Elites first went to, I guess, like Waddington, and the reception was insane. Is that where other communities kind of up there, and or even Buffalo on Erie, where they were like, oh, that worked for them, let's get this, and then they send that, and that's kind of how it's kind of snowballed to all those events. Champlain's been a pretty standard stop there, but particularly on the St. Lawrence, and then you have Clayton that'll want to have it, and Waddington and Messina and stuff would be like, oh, it worked for them. They got to see that in their city meetings of what it brought in, so now they're doing it. So it's just kind of it works. So then it kind of snowballs as the years go on.
Not only that, and that's exactly how the bulk of it snowballs and goes on, but sometimes there is personnel changes at tournament organizations, and the guy who was selecting sites for this company is now selecting sites for that company. And so, yeah, that happens.
BPT Elite Series split circa 2019.
Exactly.
So you have relationships already built with them.
It's so true. And those relationships are a big deal. And you also have turnover at these convention and visitors bureaus. Somebody who heads up one in, on Hartwell is suddenly out at, Logan Martin or Lanier. And so those relationships matter. Okay. This is a small industry. We talked about how small the fishing industry is earlier. Well, that CVB industry and the communities that can actually meaningfully host one of these events, because a lot goes into this that you know so well, Matt. You got to have an adequate boat ramp with enough ramps to get those boats in the water each morning. You got to have an adequate parking. You hope
a la Grand Lake 2013 Wolf Creek.
There you go.
A la Hartwell Green Pond Landing.
Green Pond Landing.
Smith Lake. Logan Martin.
Lay Lake has an amazing facility.
A lot of that is tournament driven for something that is planned a year and a half, 2 years in advance.
And Messina has a tremendous facility at that intake area. Just seemingly unlimited areas for parking and so forth, great places to put the stage. You'll have a lot of Amish people up there in their horse-drawn carriages watching the weigh-in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Seeing if there are any dead fish they can take home.
That's fantastic. And you also you don't forget when they do this, record a show after this with guys who are up pre-practicing. So it's not just that week. It's you've got 50 guys that are going and spending 4, 5, 6, 7 days filling up with gas every day, going out to eat every evening, using the boat launch fees and the facility. So it's residual 2-3 months beforehand leading up to it, to the off limits. Then you have the tournament. Then you have after the tournament, the guys who go, I want to get in on some of that 26-pound bag smallmouth bass action.
All that is spot on. And so these companies, I think, or these communities really, they really benefit from an event like this, but they benefit even more if there's star power in the tournament, so that people want to come out and get autographs and check out the weigh-in and stuff like that.
And thought about this. You got Scott Martin with 250,000 followers, who's then posting about being here with the photo of him catching the 10-pounder and holding it up, and then having 100,000 views, or a Ben Milliken coming up and doing all of that stuff. So that's all free. They're paying for it, but that's all marketing because he's generating content. And the only reason he's there is because they paid for the organization to be there. So it's a symbiotic relationship.
And one of the tricks that I think a lot of people don't consider enough is that, and one of the reasons maybe why you don't see the tournaments where you think they ought to have a tournament, is you don't necessarily get a tournament in March or April on the Kissimmee chain, because quite frankly, Orlando doesn't need additional tourists. And they're not going to pay for it as a result. And so these terrific lakes sometimes don't get visited at the very best times because they already have enough people coming in. These communities are looking for you to come in maybe at an off time. And that factors heavily into where these tournaments go and when they go there.
So really the results and how it impacts the micro percentage of people who are actually making their living doing this, the Elite Series anglers, the BPT anglers, the NPFL anglers.
Yeah.
Which every time that I include that, I say it's a hell of a job for the NPFL because I now include them in that conversation.
And that's much appreciated. And I think well deserved too. But
those schedules aren't built around, hey, let's get different. It's kind of built around what you can fit in with what communities are willing to pay at the time of the year where they're willing to pay. So you're seeing 5 spawn tournaments, maybe 1 post spawn tournament, and then 2 northern swings where all the marbles are on the table for a drop shot, tube drag, live scope, smallmouth only tournament.
Yeah.
It's not that that's the best scenario for determining the angler of the year, who makes the classic, who makes Red Crest, and who makes the NPFL championship. That's just how the cookie crumbles and the guys have to deal with it.
All that's true. And there are so many other factors too, just talking about site selection and timing of these tournaments. A lot of the Bass pros like a back-to-back because maybe they don't have to make the run up to New York twice or the run up to smallmouth country twice. Some guys hate those, and anglers will find something to gripe about no matter what you do. That's the second best thing they are. Hopefully they're great at catching fish, but they're also really good at complaining usually. And if you're a league like the NPFL, which has been the up and comer for the last 6 years now, you're trying to schedule around the bigger boys. And you have to do that for a while, but at some point you're going to break away and say, we just don't care where the other guys are going or when they're going to be there, because we got to do our own thing. And that point will come. But by and large, we've tried to schedule around, say, the Elite Series. So we want to be able to pull guys to our events, but we realize they're not going to travel 1,500 miles to do it. So we try to stay close to those areas where they've been fishing. And that helps draw a lot. And then you got to schedule around major industry events sometimes, like an ICAST in July. So much goes into site selection. And to anybody, and this happens to me all the time, I'm sure it happens to you all the time, Matt. People will come to me, well, why don't you go here? And why don't you go here in April? It's really good in Aprul. Well,
before
really
Leech Lake, it was, why don't you come up here?
I can't do that accent, but yeah, why don't you come here in April? Well, it's really good in April. Well, it's really good everywhere in April, Joe Bob, and there's 100 reasons why we don't go to that place at that time, and one of the big ones may be that's not when they want to have you there. They'd rather get you there. And
how has it impacted the results of tournaments over the past 10 years, in your opinion?
The
results of the overall.
First of all, let me say, I don't care how it's affected the results of tournaments over the years, because as long as a tournament is on a level playing field, I think that's all we really need to concern ourselves with as fans. Yeah. But I will say this. I hate smallmouth tournaments at the end of the season. I hate them with a red hot passion for maybe a strange reason. And that's because all these smallmouth fisheries that the leagues go to, the St. Lawrence River, the Champlains, the Erie and Buffalo River,
St. Clair,
they're fabulous fisheries. And that's part of the problem. Everybody catches 5. If you don't catch 5, I just wonder if you launched your boat. They're that good typically. And everybody catches by and large the same fish. Everybody by and large is catching that 3 3/4 to 4 pound fish. And there's a massive dense knot between about 20th place and about 80th place. And I don't think that's a magnificent test of the best on which things like Angler of the Year and championship qualifications should be determined. I like to see a tougher tournament where you're going to see more breaking up to decide those kind of things. That's why I want to see us go somewhere where not everybody's going to have 5 fish, and not everybody's going to have a 20-pound bag. Somebody's going to have a 20-pound bag, and somebody's going to have an 8-pound bag.
So you want to see a Sabine River determine Angler of the Year at the end?
No, Sabine's too much. Sabine, everybody sucks, because that's a brutally tough fishery.
Well, I'm just saying something like that.
Well, and Florida's tough because Florida can be so hot. But
like a Neely Henry.
Florida, you get that. Well, Neely Henry, maybe a Conroe is like that. There's some giant fish in Conroe, but not everybody's going to catch a limit at Conroe. So there you're going to see some shakeups, and I like that. Another thing that I think is a big deal in smallmouth tournaments, and it really resonated with me, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago when I was trying to look at it a little bit differently. In a largemouth tournament, the big fish is probably going to weigh 3 or 4 times what the average fish weighs. In a smallmouth tournament, the big fish will weigh less than twice what the average fish weighs. That makes it really difficult to move in the standings. If you go out on one of these tournaments at the St. Lawrence or St. Clair, and you come in on day 1 and you got 4 fish, you're dead. You should put it on the trailer and go home.
Because you could catch 26 pounds the next day and still finish 80.
Yeah, you're dead. You're done. It's over.
Unless you're Brian Smith.
Well, okay. And maybe Brandon Palaniuk. Palaniuk has this in crazy ability to catch the biggest fish of the tournament on smallmouth waters. I don't know how he does it, but he does it regularly.
Yes.
And it's amazing.
His streak at Champlain a couple years ago in that last hour was some of the best cinema that Bassmaster has ever put out.
Yeah, it's spectacular what that guy does there. And that's truly amazing about smallmouth waters. If you're telling me I can go fishing somewhere, I might pick one of those waters as a place that I just want to personally go fishing. But I don't like seeing seasons end there. I don't think that's a great test.
Okay, now what about this? Every place we've mentioned,
mm-hmm.
They also have greenfish. Not a single place that they fish where it just has smallmouth. What
right.
if, and I'm hypothesizing, I'm a tournament angler here. I'm all about the fair and equal, whatever. I love fishing up north. I enjoy watching the hell out of it. It impresses me what the Johnstons and Coop and Jay and Wheeler and all those guys can do up there. But what if there's a wrinkle that was thrown in to where, hey, we're going to take out a Clayton. You can fish the lake all you want or whatever, but you have to weigh in a mixed bag.
Okay, you're thinking about this like a tournament angler.
Yes.
And what I try to do whenever I'm faced with a question, a scenario, whatever, I try to look at it from different perspectives. And I'm very grateful for the fact that through the years, although I've never looked at it from a top level tournament pro perspective, I've gotten to see the rest of it. If I'm the local host, I don't want that, because those aren't the best 5 fish you can come in with. If you got to have a mixed bag, and that means you got to have a.
We've already talked about the hooks. We've already talked about that meaning. I'm talking from a purely tournament standpoint, and from what you just talked about the differences and the varying weights and stuff. What if, hypothetically, what if, let's say in this NPFL tournament coming up, you can catch all the giant smallmouth you want, but you can catch all the giant largemouth that you want.
Got to have at least 2 largemouth.
You got to have a mixed bag.
It's got to be 3-2. It's got to be 3-2.
Got to be 3-2. Doesn't matter which way it is, or 4-1 even.
Again, your host is going to hate that.
I don't care about the host. We're talking about the tournament, the pure tournament. Does that impact the pure tournament competition? Or does that add a crazy level still on the playing field? Everyone's still on the same level playing field.
It does make the playing field level, and it does add a crazy, monkey wrench into the mix. I don't like it because I like the pure idea of you bring your 5 best fish to the scales. It's like having a slot limit. Dale Hollow is one of my favorite places to go smallmouth fishing, and having a tournament there is brutal because I think the slot limit is between like 18 and 21 inches or 16 and 21 inches. That means you got to have 1 over and 1 under. That means you've got to catch that freak 15 inch and 15/16 inch fish that weighs 4 pounds, and that's just a wild card that makes no sense to me. It's just frustrating, and it does not show me who the best angler it is.
But that's happened a ton before. Bull Shoals, you've been able to weigh in 1 smallmouth over 18 inches in Elite Series competition. I watched Fred Urbanus try to catch an 18-inch smallmouth for 3 hours. You've had tons of those slot limits. You've had times where you have, like we just fished a Bassmaster Open where you had to be out of Iowa by 2 p.m. We fished ones where you can't cull in other certain states because of rules. We've had it where you can't even weigh in. There's a ton where you can't even weigh in specific species.
You cross the state line and you can't cull anymore and stuff like that. Okay, that tells me that the tournament organization has done a piss poor job. Your tournament organization has fallen asleep at the wheel, and they have not negotiated with the local authorities to create exemptions for that during the tournament. And if they can't do that, they suck. They should be fired, and they should never have a tournament there again. If you can't work with the local community to get some of those problem situations waived, go somewhere else. Take your money, take your business opportunity somewhere else, because those things all add what I will call, for lack of a clearer term at the moment, cleaner regulations that make more sense for competition. And I saw it at Bass, where somebody fell asleep at the wheel in the tournament office and forgot to clear us to be able to go to Sturgeon Bay, and suddenly Sturgeon Bay is off limits. And it wasn't because, Bass wanted to make it tougher and, let's challenge these anglers. They can't go in Sturgeon Bay. No, somebody fell asleep, didn't do their job, and now we can't fish Sturgeon Bay. And it was frustrating.
I will say to Dougie Fresh, I grew up in the middle of Illinois and go north every single year and love fishing. So I do not consider myself a Southerner. Ken, you're from Florida. That is considered a completely separate entity all of itself. It's closer to being its own country than Texas is, some would argue, especially if you have driven through the middle of Florida and not just seen the coastal tourist destinations.
Yeah, if you're coming down I-75 on the Turnpike, you've seen Florida.
And listen, I'm not saying that I agree with this. We're just having a discussion.
Yeah,
I was just hypothesizing, what if it was a mixed bag? Would that not take care of some of the issues that you had handled and throw a wrench into the equation, where it's still a level playing field, but going into it, hey, I need to figure out how to catch a couple of these suckers on a frog. They're 3.5 pounders, and how long, am I still able to go out to the ducks and get my 3-5 pound smallmouth and come in with time to catch my 2.5 or my 3.5 pound largemouth?
And you would do that. You would accomplish those things. You would just do it in a way that I find unattractive.
Oh, Dougie was calling you a Southerner.
I love what was I'm talking about.
He was calling you a Southerner. He said I'm talking about Ken's.
I just don't like ending the season there when it's very hard to move up or down, and everybody catches 5 fish, and there are 5 great fish. But back to your point, Matt, I think you do take care of a lot of the things you're talking about. To Mark's point is the game is the 5 biggest fish. That's the game I want to play. Yeah. And I want to solve some of the problems you're talking about showing angler versatility by having a tournament on a body of water where spots are going to win. Then let's take it and have tournaments where largemouths are going to win. and then let's have a tournament or two where smallmouths are going to win. I like that. I think that is a true test of the
Norman's
best.
a great test of that too, and we've seen that. Norman, like, do you run up the river? Do you try to catch the largemouth, or do you play the spot game where you catch 20 spots and hope that 2 of them are 3-pounders?
You can play that game all over Alabama, except for Gunnersville, I guess. You can play that game in the Carolinas a lot, spots and largemouth.
And you see anglers that come out of those necks of the woods, very well-rounded, talented anglers that compete for Angler of the Years. I mean, I've done entire shows on why the Carolinas produce such a high caliber of talent, even though the epicenter is that East Texas, Alabama area. Carolina guys catch them.
And that's so true. And these guys are those guys from the Carolinas, those guys from especially from North Alabama, they are super versatile, and they have run the gauntlet of different fisheries and great competition because they got so many talented peers out there. You know, and we talk about largemouth, smallmouth spots. I can only think of one guy who's won tour level events with all largemouths, won tour level events with all smallmouths, and won tour level events with all spots.
Edwin's
done it.
God, I can't believe I got that.
And that's a heck of an accomplishment, you know? I mean,
yeah.
And of course, we would have talked about Edwin as one of the most versatile anglers on the planet anyway, because, you know, and that's one of the things I get a kick out of if I'm watching MLF coverage. You know how it is when you'll see somebody move way up the leaderboard and the anglers start talking about him. Oh, I wonder what this guy's doing. Well, if it's Talk, they think he's throwing a square bill or something. And if it's this guy, they think he's throwing a Ned rig or whatever. If Edwin's catching him, you have no idea what he might be doing.
Yeah, that's
Mark Davis is like that.
You mentioned, so at the risk of offending Edwin, he's old for being on tour. Mark Davis, obviously, legend.
Edwin is a
guy
grandfather.
Was winning Angler of the Years in Classics in '95.
Yeah,
but
Edwin's a grandpa.
When you're well known because you talk about the young guys coming out. Who was the first like young phenom in your opinion? Would it be Gary Klein coming out of the West Coast?
Yeah, I mean Gary broke a lot of barriers, or was the first in a lot of ways. I mean, he's really the first guy who never had a real job outside of fishing. You know, he worked at a marina a little bit, but then he was a bass pro, and he's been a bass pro ever since. So yeah, he's one. I mean, Tim Horton coming out in 2000, winning AOY as a rookie. Tim was a young phenom. There have been a lot of them, but those guys had staying power. And Tim's out of the game
that
now.
Was rare.
Staying power.
It was rare to see.
David Dudley. David Dudley was as young or younger than either of those guys.
4. I could name 6 on the BPT and Elite Series each right now.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Case in point, you're doing it. Your statistic, what was it? Where let's just cut the Elite Series in half. Let's say 2006 was the first year of the Elite Series. Godzilla ain't got nothing on me and Darnell, and that was like the big Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail. The Elite Series is not. We're 20 years past that. So 10 years into the Elite Series would have been 2016. I believe then. What did you say the average age of an Elite Series pro was then? It was remarkably high.
Oh, actually, I didn't track the average age of an Elite Series pro so much as I was tracking the average age of a Bassmaster Classic qualifier.
Okay, that was it.
And the reason I was tracking Classic qualifier versus Elite angler was because just because you're hanging around the elites doesn't mean you're competitive or successful. Doesn't mean you're really making a difference in the game. But if you qualify for a Bassmaster Classic, you're clearly competitive. And yeah, that for decades, that average would stay between, say, 38 and 41 decades. The only time it was, and it was really never higher than that, the only time it was lower than that was in the very earliest years of the Bassmaster Classic, the early 70s, when it reached a low of about 35. And now, the last couple of years, when it's again back down to around 35. So is there a precedent for the most competitive anglers in professional bass fishing to be Young, yeah, there is a precedent, but it was the very beginning of the game.
So the oldest, I mean, was there anybody who's even, there were very few 40-year-olds in the 2026 Bassmaster Classic.
And I haven't calculated the number for that, but I did calculate the numbers for the 2025 Classic.
Okay.
The average age of an angler in the 2024 Classic is the last one I actually sat down and did the math on. And it was 35.7 years old.
Still 35.
Still 35. And it had been on a steady decline since, and this makes sense because, and this is a little bit artificial, Matt, and I want to make sure to explain that. It's a little artificial. It's been on a steady decline since 2018. Well, what happened then? 68 of the most established and oldest Elite Series anglers left.
BPT and quit fishing the Bassmaster Classic.
Exactly. So that's artificial. Suddenly you've got a bunch of new talent coming into the league that hadn't been there before. The Patrick Walters, the Drew Cooks, and a bunch of guys who I think you would agree with me weren't even very good, but were good enough to qualify for the Classic in those first couple of years. And now they're gone. And they've been replaced by younger guys who are masters of forward-facing sonar. So that's a little bit of an artificial infusion of new blood. I think that if the guys like Todd Fairclough and Edwin Evers and Mark Davis had phased out and were still fishing the elites, but were gradually phasing out, we would not have seen the same youth movement that we're seeing now. I mean, there's no question that that's true.
In 2026, I believe there were 23 anglers in their 20s that fished the Bassmaster Classic.
That's a lot. That would have been that as a percentage.
Won by a 22-year-old with two 20-year-olds.
Yeah. As a percentage, that would be higher than at any time probably in Classic history. But there were a lot of young guys fishing early. And there were a lot of young guys fishing early because A, there was no money in it. And B, those are the guys with fewest responsibilities. They weren't married. They didn't have kids.
Do you like the mix? Because personally, just me, my opinion is I love the mix. I love the old school guys. I love seeing a dude on the BPT battling it out against Mark Davis, who was winning Angler of the Years before he was even born. I love the yin and the yang. Like, I love the fact that you're in a sport where you can have a 19-year-old going into the final day against a 60-year-old. Like, I think that's one of the unique, badass things about the highest level of tournament bass fishing. And we're seeing it now more with, excuse me, the culling of, guys who aren't competing at the highest level. For so many years, I think that age stayed high also because there were no cuts, like even from the Elite Series and the FLW Tour, like kind of if you wanted to fish it, you could fish it. But I love the mix of the young blood and the older guys and the younger guys having to compete against the older guys with the no scope and the either whether it's 50-50 or one period of stuff where you definitely have an advantage with the age. And I love the older guys that are trying to hang by learning the new technology. Like, I like the mix now.
I like the mix too, but I don't like the mix. I don't like the artificiality of the mix. And I do think it's been largely artificial or driven by technology in a way that I think is unfortunate.
Was each generation not driven by technology, Ken? Was the Edwin, Amart, Kevin, Timmy, Skeet, was that not driven by technology as well? The 2D and the side imaging and they were competing against the guys who still all had flashers on the boat. And before the flashers, when those came around, and I could promise you there was someone behind the scenes who said, that damn David Fritz and his flasher. Is that not just the generational change?
I think to a small degree, yes. I think this change has been much more dramatic because the advancement between these other technologies you're talking about has been far more dramatic with the live imaging sonar. Now, do I think too much is made of that? I do. Do I think there's too much bitching and moaning about it? I do. My friend Lee Sisson, I think, put it best because he fished the Elite Series for a year, qualified as a rookie at age 62. Loves forward-facing sonar. But he said overnight, The veterans are rookies, and the rookies are stars. And I think that's pretty succinctly accurate. And I think that the technology was a dividing point like never before. I also think that the people who want to gripe about forward facing as being a step too far or something like that, or cheating, I disagree with them. It's certainly not cheating. It's well within the rules. So let's shut up about that. But I do think that drawing a line in the sand as to where it went too far is a hard thing to do. Is it forward facing? Is it side scan? Is it 360? Where do you draw the line? Is it the flasher? Because there were people in the 1950s who wanted to ban the flasher from recreational fishing. And I think that drawing a line has value. I never dreamed I would say that. I never dreamed I would be against technology in our sport. But I am against forward-facing sonar, and two things really tripped that for me. I don't know if you want to go there or not, but
yeah.
One was from 2006, the beginning of the Elite Series, until 2018, when there was the big split. Aaron Martens was the best in the Elite Series at catching 5 fish every day. Aaron averaged 4.815 bass a day, which you as a tournament pro, I think, appreciate
Strong.
that. 4.815. That's the best anybody did. In 2024, the Elite Series as a league was better than that. As a league.
Wow.
That's like Babe Ruth hitting 60 home runs in 1927. And then a few years later, because they're making better bats, the average player hits 60 home runs. And that's not good for the sport, in my opinion.
And we saw that hot bat era with the drops in college baseball too, where there was a 3 or 4 year period there, or a couple year period where every single home run record was rewritten by absolutely every single team. And then they came back and kind of curtailed the live bats.
Sometimes you have to right the ship. But that was one thing. That was the evidence that showed me, okay, this is not just a gradual progression. This is a quantum leap forward in technology.
Okay.
And I didn't like it, because now what it tells me is, okay, a 5 fish limit's no good anymore. That limit now needs to be 8 or 10 for us to have meaningful competition now. Because if everybody catches a limit, what does that?
And the skill comes down to identifying the highest quality.
Yeah,
which is what it is now. I mean, I go into the opens assuming like a 5 fish limit is an assumption.
Exactly. You have to. But that's it. Should it be like that? Or shouldn't the fact that you're chasing the bigger fish and you're chasing a certain number of fish, shouldn't they both factor in your performance? They don't now.
Opinion.
They don't now. I do think that they should both factor in. The thing that really turned me against it, and your audience that hunts will get this better than the audience that doesn't. In the world of hunting, there's a thing called the rules of fair chase. And the rules of fair chase say that they're all about the proper way to hunt a game animal, a deer, an elk, a moose, whatever. And the rules of fair chase were established in the 1870s by Theodore Roosevelt and some other guys who formed what they called the Boone and Crockett Club. And if you kill a giant deer, and it's a book deer, as they call it, scores a certain level when the antlers are measured and so forth. If you didn't do it in accordance with the rules of fair chase, you don't get to enter it in the record book. And one of the rules of fair chase, well, their rules of fair chase are things like the animal can't be drugged. The animal can't be behind a high fence. The animal can't be tied to a tree. And one of the rules of fair chase, and it's been around since the beginning, is you cannot use technology to create an unfair advantage. Now that's nebulous. That's loose language. But in more recent years, like 10 or 15 years ago, they added a drone is not permitted. Well, what is forward-facing sonar but an underwater drone? A drone, we think of a drone like this, hovering over something. Well, now you just turned it 90 degrees and you put it under the water. And now that fish, you can hunt that fish until you catch it or you give up. That fish can't get away from you anymore. Now, I'm not saying you can necessarily
The
catch it.
hunting comparison, you're never going to get me on board with that, Ken.
I've still got to get close enough to shoot the animal. You've still got to get the animal to open its mouth and bite.
You're never going to get me with the hunting comparisons. I hate that comparison.
Here's
I
where-
hate the hunting comparison.
It's
Apples.
It's a
I
good
think
comparison.
it's apples. I don't think it is. I think it's a horrible comparison. I'm shocked
I
that you
think-
even
I think
went
the
down that
forward-facing
comparison.
sonar- I think
At
the
least you didn't say
forward-facing
the S
sonar
word.
will one day be banned on a policy basis. I believe it.
What does that mean?
It means that the rules of fair chase are part of the hunting regulations in every state in the country. Okay.
Mhm.
What Theodore Roosevelt and his buddies created in
Mhm.
1875, evolving through the years, has persisted until now, and it is part of every state's hunting regs. We need fishing rules of fair chase.
I can't get on board with that one. So what about like sound? Like in hunting, you can't like call in a deer using electronics? Like what about like electronic sound and stuff to like drag them in? Because
I'm not an expert on hunting by any means, but I would say that I think that you cannot use sound calls or tethered animals for game to pursue game animals.
that's not considered fair chase.
That's not considered fair chase. Now,
Okay,
game
then
animal-
why was there
you
not
can-
an
you can do it
outrage for
a-
this?
you
Why,
can do it
when
for-
this came out, was there not an outrage for the hydro?
Oh, because nobody thinks it works.
Why was there not an outrage? You're using
Nobody
the
thinks
exact
it
same
works.
thing. You're using
Nobody-
the fish and all that. Nobody
Nobody
thinks it works. Do you not remember the marketing campaign
I know.
that was put on behind? Look, I got a KVD crawfish patch in the bottom of this one. I got the power pattern on there, Ken. Why was there no outrage for that?
because
If
everybody
it's not
thinks
fair chase, it's the same fair chase that you're not allowed to do during deer hunting. So why was it like, hey, you can't do it in that? Why are we allowing this thing on the front of every
because
single
nobody takes it because the industry doesn't take it seriously. The industry doesn't take it seriously.
What about Livingston Lures?
A lot of people may not take Livingston lures seriously. A lot of people do. A lot of people have great results with it. A lot of people don't. It's to an extent, it's what a lot of people believe. Now, what is indisputable is that anglers are catching more fish and anglers are relentlessly pursuing fish with the use of forward-facing sonar. That's indisputable. That's easily demonstrable.
There's a number of anglers who I could literally go back and pull interviews where they're saying that it dramatically changed their catch impact, their catch ratio.
I agree. How many of them are on the payroll? Clay Williamson makes a great point here. Hydrowave didn't change the statistics of the sport single-handedly.
I don't know. You ever heard of KVD? I got a KVD
I've heard of
patch in the
KVD.
Hydrowave. When the Hydrowave came out, KVD went on a tear.
I've got the stats pre-Hydrowave and post-Hydrowave. No difference. Now, stats in bass fishing are tough because, one year you fish the Sabine River, the next year you fish Gunnersville, but I can show you the stats, and there's no difference. Guys aren't catching them. It's not demonstrable that it's having an impact on tournaments. There is absolutely demonstrable evidence that there is a difference between.
And you're
pre-forward-facing.
saying that is a negative byproduct instead of, hey, lap times are faster in NASCAR too, and you just have to adapt to the faster lap times. If you're saying it took 35 seconds to go or a minute 35 to go around the lap in 1970, and now it takes a minute and 10 seconds, all that.
What I'm saying is, forward-facing sonar has made a clearly demonstrable difference in the catch rates of tournament fishing.
And I
B,
do not disagree with that.
It's a violation of what I would consider to be the rules of fair chase.
And that's where I disagree with it.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not ripping you a new one for it. I'm just
Neither of us is going to change the industry. On our own
it's
on that.
I enjoy the conversation because I like to
absolutely.
hear your standpoint of it, and there's people that are on both sides of the fence in the instant feedback too. I mean,
and
Clay's still here, and he's an hour and 45 minutes in, and usually when FFS comes out, he checks out and watches Love Island or something.
I never dreamed I would be opposed to technology in fishing. I never imagined that would happen. And at first I wasn't. It took those two things to flip me on forward facing. And NPFL, a league I do a lot of work with and am proud to work with, they didn't ban forward facing because they were opposed to it. The owners of MPFL all have forward facing on their boats. They just thought it was a good marketing play, and it has been. It's been a distinguishing factor. And I think one of the things that obviously forward facing sonar is bad for bass fishing viewership. Obviously, you can't deny that.
I disagree with that.
How can you disagree with that? Every league has now either banned it or restricted it. The only reason,
disagree with that
only reason
because I fish with forward facing sonar and I love watching the tournaments where they have the screen pulled out and you're watching.
I'm not talking about just you. I'm not talking about a one person pull here. Every league has either banned or restricted forward facing sonar because they were losing eyeballs. And you can't deny that. The evidence is too obvious.
I don't know. There's been a lot. I mean, this was the most watched Bassmaster Classic in history.
If you believe their numbers.
Well,
what I believe,
have no reason to not believe their numbers. So.
What I believe is their actions. And their actions tell me that forward-facing sonar is bad for numbers.
You could also say that those actions are based on the fact that anglers still have a say in the rules and how things are done, and some influential anglers who are opposed to it have a bigger say than other anglers, regardless of what you want to think as well.
Do I think the anglers have some say in the rules and regulations of the sport? Yeah, maybe 5% at bass, maybe less. What has a say at bass is money. And money that they're making from Garmin, Lowrance, and Humminbird speaks far more loudly than any group of anglers ever have. The anglers can't even speak with one voice. That's what's kept them from having a greater say in things. And also the anglers, as you know so well, are split on the issue of forward-facing sonar.
Yeah, no,
although more of them in the Elite Series like forward-facing because they've pushed so many out who didn't.
I'll say this. Am I excited to watch the MPFL and see how it goes down without forward-facing? Absolutely. Do I know how the Elite Series is going to go down? Absolutely.
Sure.
Do I know how the MPFL is going to go down? No, I don't. It could be one on a chatterbait on the flats. It could be run drift in the river. It could be one on a guy who comes in with 22 pounds a largemouth a day. It could be one drop shotting. There could be it does open up more. Now, am I pretty sure how it's going to go down? Yeah, it's going to be the exact same thing. The guy's drifting backwards, holding it, dunk, 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 just like it was before forward. But anyway, we'll put the topic to bed. I enjoyed the hell out of that one.
Me too. I'm
way more open-minded, dude. Fishing the opens where it was split. I like putting the orange box on. I like grinding it out and catching it. And then I'm sitting there on YouTube and I watch a big sport fishing tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they all take out, and it's so powerful there. And I'm not in that world, so I'm looking at it from a new perspective. But I can relate to it because I understand the getting ready for the tournament, the pre-fishing part, and all that. I just don't have $43,000 to fill up my boat with gas for the whatever great Marlin Quest 2026. But I was watching this one, and this dude who's an influencer gets on the boat, and he's just there to be part of this team for this big tournament. And this is where it made me, I literally just sat there and thought about it. I'm a weirdo. And they're not even allowed to turn their sonar units on until it's first cast. So if lines in are at 8, they can't, and they have the ability to do this radar sonar thing that's $30,000. I'm going to get all this wrong. There's guarantee there's very few sport fishermen that are watching this show, but they can see basically a mile around the boat.
Yeah.
And this guy went out, and they maybe in 2 days put the baits out. They had the baits out, but they really made 3 or 4 key trolls, runs, whatever, in 2 days. And the rest of the time they just powered through the ocean waiting for a sailfish to show up on it. And then they would go over to it and try to get their lines in it. And it was 90%. God, I hope something shows up. And 10% is that one that shows up. And I was like, I just watched that and I was like, that was not interesting. Like, you had 100 boats out that were all just looking for the individual fish that were showing up. And then I put that on I shrank that down and put it on a microcosm and went, well, if you're not in it, that's what's happening in the bass world to some extent.
Yeah. People will find entertainment out of anything. And anytime a game changes substantially, you're going to lose some people and you're going to gain some other people. And I think it's fascinating to look at a forward-facing sonar screen.
Why on Kentucky Lake was Tim Horton celebrated when he went out on the final day with a 10-pound deficit, and he did not fish for the first 7 hours of the day until he found a school on side imaging and then caught them all in the last 30 minutes. And he came in. I remember writing stories. You covered that tournament, I believe, Ken. Why was there no, and he had a camera with him. Why was the TV show, all of that about it was look at the master of the electronics who had enough balls and enough skill to watch his electronics until he saw the fish that he needed instead of fishing all day. He literally idled an entire tank of gas to find one school on a ledge on Kentucky Lake, didn't end up winning, but then came in, and it was one of the coolest things that had ever been done. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And different people find different things fascinating and interesting. And I think you would agree with me that Tim Horton in his prime was the best angler on tour with his electronics. If Tim won a tournament, he often won by 10 pounds. He could be dominant at times. And the other thing Tim will tell you, and this is kind of an aside, but the other thing Tim will tell you, because I asked him about it and he said as much, the fact that electronics got so much better and so much easier to use, and the fact that guys could just put it on auto and get as much out of it as it had taken him decades to learn, kind of destroyed his career. Kind of took him from being, one of the top guys to now suddenly these electronics are so easy to use, user friendly, that it put him right in the midst with everybody else. Now, some people love forward facing sonar. They not only want to use it, they want to watch it because they're going to learn more. And some of the outlets have done a good job of putting that screen on the camera so that everybody can see it and see what the guy's looking at. And that's great and good for them. And I think it's fascinating too. My only objection is I just don't think it's good for the sport overall.
Mm-hmm. We'll close it with this. I think it's, we're talking about business decisions, what makes the organization's money and stuff. I think the MPFL made a business decision by not allowing it. I don't think that it had anything to do with the maintaining the moral integrity of the sport. I think it had to do with making a tough decision to say, how can we stand apart and provide a platform that we feel is needed, and see if there is a viewership and a viewer base that is needed for that, and sponsors that would support this. And that's why the no forward facing was implemented.
And that's always been what the NPFL has said about that decision. Yep. The NPFL, Brad Fuller, was very clear. He said, this is a marketing decision.
Said it on the show.
This is not a morals decision. Brad still has forward facing on his boat. He ain't taking it off. He said just a business decision, and at the time it was an easy business decision because the NPFL had no electronic sponsors. As soon as they banned forward facing sonar, Humminbird came on board. So it was a good business decision, and it's remained a good business decision because it is the thing that sets the NPFL apart from the other leagues. And that's valuable. Being different is valuable. Maybe that's why they eat the urchin. They've never seen an urchin before.
What's your biggest urchin bass so far, Ken Duke?
Maybe 2 pounds. I haven't thrown it a lot. Got to admit, I haven't thrown it a lot. But it's interesting.
For the non-urchiners, you got to get in the boat with someone who urchins, and it's one of those that.
Is it urchins or shouldn't it be urches?
Urchins.
Hey, you want to go urch?
I think it's like deer. Deer is singular and plural, right?
Ooh.
Look at all those deer. Okay. Oh, I just saw a deer. I think urchin.
I'm good with it. Whatever you think. I'll follow your lead.
I'm also curious when we do shows like this where we get really deep in the weeds and it's not, hey, here's this bait, how to throw it or something fun like that. If people find it interesting, or if it's like just like, I don't know. I don't want to be like one of those purist guys where you're like watching some sport on ESPN 8 the Ocho and they're talking about, like I was watching the table hockey championships from 2022 the other day, and this dude kept doing the same move over and over. And one of the commentators was kind of like, this guy's known for doing the same move over and over. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to come across as like an elitist.
I don't think you do that at all. And I don't know. I hope I don't. I think that what we've talked about today has been kind of an inside baseball look at the bass fishing world and the fishing industry. And, it's like anything else. I'm a big believer that you get the audience you deserve, whether we're talking about Bass Talk Live or we're talking about the Big Bass Podcast or we're talking about Bass After Dark. We get the audience we deserve. If we give people a steady diet of ABC, we're going to lose the people who only want XYZ, but we're hopefully going to get all the people who like ABC. So you're offering people a lot of variety. I mean, if somebody wants to find out how a tournament got won or how a technique is done, they're going to watch you. They're going to check out Bass University. They're going to do some of that. And if they want something different, then maybe they'll come check out something I'm doing.
Can people purchase those Bass After Dark hats?
They can go to Achigan Brand, ACHIGAN brand.com and purchase this hat.
Ken Duke, a lot going on at Bass After Dark. You do a lot of very unique things. You'll do some industry shows, kind of like we did today, and then you'll do how do you throw square bill, how do you throw buzzbait, and you get the experts on who know that mix of young and old guys. There it is, right there. Like your most recent show was lipless crankbaits. How do you fish a buzzbait? Who's the bass fishing goat? Should you throw bigger baits in summer? And you get them on. When it comes to that show, what have you learned from you've interviewed a ton of guests and done a bunch of stuff. Did it give you a little bit of different perspective after being on the inside of the industry for so long to?
Oh, always. I get so fired up. If we do a show, for example, on lipless crankbaits or square bills or whatever, I immediately tie on a bunch of square bills or a bunch of lipless crankbaits and get out there and try some of the things they've talked about. And what I've learned is that there's always more than one way to do something. And I've learned so much and I get so fired up. It kind of rejuvenates me. It doesn't matter what the show is. 45 days ago, I thought I would never own an urchin, Matt. I thought I would never get one.
On principle?
No, just because I thought, what does this thing do that I can't do with another bait? And now I own about 20. And that was after we did the urchin show.
You're wealthy. The Bass After Dark must be paying good for you to be able to put 20 urchins in the boat.
No, we're not. We need support, folks. We need your money on Bass After Dark. We need your money. Please help us. Please help us. Support us.
There's also those are all archived too. The Big Bass Podcast. If you're aren't they?
Yeah, they're archived.
Yeah, if you're looking to go back and do a real nerdy, in-depth look on a lot of stuff that we've put up on a pedestal and stuff you've never heard of and stuff, like it's a little bit on hiatus now. Is Terry Battisti a doctor?
Well, he is a PhD.
So he's doctor with Dr. Terry Battisti. Like if you've got a long road trip, if you're heading up north to catch smallmouth and one largemouth, you can, if you're into the big bass and there's conspiracy theories and there's controversy in there and there's deep dives and there's he said, she said, and there's all sorts of good stuff on that. That's a series that kind of lives on its own. Go back and check that. And it's timeless too. It's not like until something, changes. I don't know what you're doing behind the scenes now. A couple of axes to grind, but
no, I'm hoping that we get back to it. Terry has a PhD in nuclear chemical engineering. So you can imagine that he is a smart guy and we love doing the show, but he got busy. And so it's kind of gone on the back burner. But meanwhile, if you don't mind real quick, Matt, a couple of buddies of mine, and you may know these guys, Mike Davis and Brendan Brown from Brown Bait Company are starting a podcast that will launch today. It's called the Trophy Bass Podcast. It launches today on YouTube. So if folks want to check it out, it's going to be more how-to big bass, but it'll be good stuff. And man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate coming on Bass Talk Live. I love Bass Talk Live. I love Matt Pangrac, and it's always a joy.
I enjoy the heck out of it. There's no one that knows more about the sport, and I'm still waiting for those logs to get published. Like there's you will be long remembered, not just currently, but especially in the past when you finally let someone else have the book, that you have kept detailed records that are you're the only one who has them, is what I'm saying. So when more and more, and the sport continues to evolve, and it goes back. Like, you do the baseball stuff and they're like, the last time this happened was 1937 when shoeless Joe Jackson hit a double off the blah, 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 blah. Like that there's a bunch of stuff that you currently have that like no one else kept those records because you've gone from organization to organization, owners, changes, you have fires, you have stuff where it's like, well, no one cares what happened in 1987 in this Bassmaster, but when something weird happens, and then as AI gets better in technology, and then once that goes into a database and you can cross-reference it, then you can put into perspective the importance of the accomplishment, which then creates a foundation for the history of the sport. So when it comes to the foundation of the history of the sport, there is no one better than Ken Duke.
You're very kind. I love the sport of bass fishing, and I just immerse myself in it as much as possible.
Appreciate it, Ken. You're the man.
Appreciate you, Matt. Nobody does it better than Matt Pangrac. You're the best, brother. Thank you for having me on.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
All right. There you go. Ken Duke. Look at that. It's got a $5 towards the Urchin stock level. Oh, put that to use. All right. Long show, 2-hour show. We're going to wrap things up from there and be back. We'll wind her up and we'll do it again tomorrow. This has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. We'll see you tomorrow. See ya.